Okay, team, welcome back to the Anchor of the Week, where we have hard conversations, hear people's stories, and challenge perspectives. My name is Zach.
And I'm Courtney.
And we are the Anchor of the Week team. We have a special guest today.
Yes, we do.
We are buzzing in our new studio space.
I know.
Which, again, is exciting.
You thought 2 weeks ago we had a new studio.
Yes.
We just keep on coming at you with new
We
studio
do,
spaces.
yeah. But we're looking to be here now, so this is exciting.
Yes.
So we have our first guest in our new space, which is exciting.
Yes.
Team, this is Stefano, I like to call her, but...
But you can call her Stef.
Stephanie, yeah. Thank you so much for coming on, Steph. Really appreciate your time. We're obviously talking about different worldviews, and Steph has a really cool story in terms of a background and I guess the core beliefs are the same in terms of what you believe now and what you believed back then, but even just growing up in a different environment, family and things like that who believed in something different to what you do now. We're just going to dive into that today,
Yes.
basically.
Yeah, so we're super excited. Steph is one of our good friends. She's a part of Hope and Anchor Community Church as well. But she is originally from, I'm going to give you a slight introduction and then you can fill in any gaps that I have.
Okay, sounds good.
So you are from the States. You're from Ohio.
Yes.
Yeah. I knew that.
Not Pennsylvania.
Not Pennsylvania, though I was thinking Pennsylvania. Why Pennsylvania? Because Steph grew up Mennonite, even though Pennsylvania is more Amish, I believe.
We have that too.
Oh, you have that too? You know what? It's
There you go.
if you are maybe not from the States or Canada or kind of North America, I don't think it's really that popular outside. I don't really know. I think it has like German and Dutch like background.
I mean,
usually.
Swiss German for like my parents' ancestry is Swiss
Okay.
German. Dutch as in like the Netherlands Dutch? No. But there's also, which I discovered since moving here, there's also Russian Mennonite ancestry.
Oh, wow.
And Amish ancestry from Russia as well, which I was really
Interesting.
thrown off by that. I'm like, no, it's incorrect.
That is incorrect. Well, the more you know. So if people that don't know, we're already throwing around this term Mennonite.
Yeah.
So you were raised Mennonite. What does that mean, Steph?
Well, okay, so I don't really know how to explain it, but the Mennonites, a lot of people know more about the Amish,
Yes.
which is the more popular term because they're so simplistic, so old-fashioned living and like,
Yeah. Because when you say Amish, I think people that like drive a horse and carriage, no electricity
Horse
in their
and
home.
buggy, by
Horse
the
and
way.
buggy.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, this is good. This is good.
We're
We wanna
learning.
know
We're
this.
learning.
Yeah.
Cinderella had a carriage. The Amish have the buggies.
have
Okay.
a buggy. That's
Gotcha.
correct. Carriage is too fancy.
Right? Oh, hey, good point though.
It's kind of making a joke, but actually, yes.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
But it's this whole idea of like not kind of adapting with the times or not like adhering to modern like advancements, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not being part of the world. That's the biggest thing
Okay.
for the Amish especially, is not being part of the world. That's why they live such simple lives and they haven't moved along with the times.
Right.
Because like technology is evolving with the world as well. And even something like short skirts is also evolving with the world and all this
I
stuff
cannot
like
wait
this.
to dive into that.
Okay, yeah.
Because let me just
This
say,
is
when I
what it's
first met Steph many years ago, yeah, she was in a new era.
Oh yeah.
That's so cool. I actually really like some of this. Wait. Okay, so keep going.
Also,
Sorry,
this
sorry.
is your podcast.
No. Sorry, as in like not conforming to the world.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm a big fan of that. Love that.
Yes.
Even though there's so many
Okay.
things that.
But here we come, and I
Swiss
think what we're
actions.
going to get is the extreme, right? Because Mennonites, okay, in my mind, Mennonite is like the less extreme version of the Amish. I realize that it is a different, like, group. Both are rooted in Christian beliefs. And I understand that they have differences, like, kind of. And so to just say, oh, Mennonites are less extreme than Amish is, like, not a proper way to describe them. But
Yeah.
would you kind of say that in a way? Similar principles, but
I mean, yeah, we basically, okay. So how I see it is that there's different levels of like conservative living.
right.
So the Amish, which then there's even a more conservative way of the Amish community, which we in Holmes County, Ohio, would call them Swartzentroopers, which it's also a surname, but they're very conservative. They make their own clothes, they make their own everything, and their buggies don't have reflective like things on them, which makes it even more dangerous if you're driving at night.
Because
which is
for clarification,
biggest pet peeve.
These drive on roads with cars.
Oh yeah, and some and because of where I come from, we have a lot of back roads that are like, I mean, they're paved but not very well paved. It's like the state roads.
Yeah.
But they don't have like buggy lanes. We have like on. For example, State Route 39 goes through like our biggest touristy area of Berlin, Ohio. They have like buggy lanes set aside on both sides of the road. And yeah, like we have bike lanes, but that's where the bikes and the buggies typically ride on. Or drive, however you want to say it. But on the back roads, we don't have that. It's very rare that you even find a back road with the middle yellow line. So you're just driving down, and that's usually where the locals take to get to work to avoid all the tourists on the main roads.
Wow, so you're just right there with just a horse beside you.
Yeah.
Just trotting along. Mm-hmm. My goodness.
Wow.
So tell us more about your childhood, Stef. Give us a little bit of your background, because we are going to be following it obviously to where you are now and how your worldview has changed a little bit. But let's start at the beginning. Tell us about, I don't know, you were born and then what happened?
Well, first of all, speaking about birth, I was adopted into a Mennonite family.
Right.
So, which makes it even more interesting. Being adopted into that. So, but my biological mother chose my parents. So she knew what she was putting myself into, and she trusted them and became really good friends with them beforehand anyways.
Right.
A bit of pre-birth backstory.
Yeah.
Pre-birth, yeah.
Pre-birth.
Yeah, we love it.
Do you mind me asking, are you still in touch with your biological mother or not?
I mean, it was a closed adoption, so I couldn't have any communications with her until I was 18.
Right.
Which even then I had asked about it, and my mom she didn't give me much information.
Okay.
And I think it was mainly out of fear that I would replace her, which isn't true at all.
Mm-hmm.
I love her. She raised me, and she raised me very well.
We can confirm. Yeah.
Yes.
You're a good person.
Okay.
But we were able to find her on Facebook when I was doing a hunt one year. It was 2017, so it was right after my DTS actually. And I was
Discipleship Training School.
Yes,
program.
is what that stands for.
Clarification.
I was just talking with my dad about it because he's more interested in finding things like that. He loves that. Going back into ancestry and whatnot. So I was chatting with him about it, and he found her on Facebook. And so I sent her a Facebook message on Mother's Day of 2017, which was I think the day before or after my birthday.
Wow.
And so, or the day of, I don't quite remember what that was.
But everything was very aligned. Let's just say.
Yeah, it just all worked out. Yeah. And she didn't respond until a month later. And she was just like, oh, yeah, by the way, happy belated birthday. And she was so nonchalant about it. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm here like sobbing my eyes out because I finally have contact with my biological mother. And she's just like, oh, hey, how's it going?
You're like, not what I expected.
Okay. So yeah, every now and then we'll chat for a couple days, and then we'll like pause for a couple months, and it's usually around holidays is when we start chatting up again.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Keeping us on this a little bit of a tangent. No. I'm going to stay here for a moment. But do you think being adopted has changed like your worldview in any senses? Like, because obviously, I mean, I know you, and I also know that your siblings are also adopted. How many siblings do you have again? Like 6 or something?
Six siblings.
Are they all adopted?
All of us are adopted.
Yeah.
Wowzers.
And so all of you are kind of coming into like this one family, right? But each knowing that you have a different past or a different story or a different DNA or a different...
Yeah.
Did that affect kind of the way that you saw even maybe not just life in general, but like the life that then you were brought into? Like, did you ever think like this might not have been my life? Or like, I don't know.
Oh yeah, all the time. I'm like, I've often wondered how my life would be if I were in a different family, or if she would have kept me, or anything like that. Because she was also very young when I was born. I often think that, but then if I think about it too much, then I start to like, I don't know. I kind of want to say like doubt everything.
Yeah.
And like, is this I don't know, but like God put me into this family for a reason, and I'm so grateful to it to this day. Grateful for it to this day, and yeah, so I try not to think about it too much, but yes, I have thought about it, especially during like the difficult seasons of my life. I'm like, I wonder how if I would have gone through a difficult like the same situation in a different lifestyle, in a different like way of living, how would I react to it?
Yeah.
And so
was that harder to come to terms with, like, because hearing about the Mennonite ways, let's call it, like, obviously it's very strict, it's very conservative or whatever, and so like coming to terms with like having to be like that, was that hard for you? Or did you not think about it much? I know you grew up in that environment and stuff, but was it kind of like, oh, why am I like, I didn't choose this, almost, that kind of element?
I mean, I was adopted at like 2 days old, so I was full on
straight in there,
right in there. A lot of people thought I was one of the biological children of my adopted parents, me and my brothers, because fun fact, we are the white kids of the family.
Okay.
There you go.
It is what it is. But yeah, so it didn't really bother me much. I didn't think much about it, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I did notice, coming back to it, I did notice that growing up, like when I was younger, we were more conservative. And then growing up and like moving to a different church, when I was like 5, which it was like we call this an outreach, is when a church breaks off and starts a new church. That's called an outreach. Yeah, and moving to that church, I could tell that we were slowly coming out of it, but like, I shouldn't say coming out of it, but we were not as conservative as we were before. Yeah. And the same thing with my school. Went to Mennonite school as well, just fully surrounded by it. And the dress code changed every now and then, and became a little bit more simpler to make it easier for other people, because we would like have outside families come in and join the Mennonite school. And they would have to follow along with the dress codes, which is not how they would.
So give us a picture of like what was Mennonite about your childhood? If that makes sense.
Because you said it was more conservative.
Yeah. So like give us like the dress codes, like what you wore, like
how you act, what you were allowed to, not allowed to do.
Yeah. Say whatever.
Oh my.
And if you have any of the reasons why,
yeah, great.
Or you might not have the reasons why.
Yeah.
But
I just have to like go dig back into my memories. So I could just go back and
reach
like,
those files.
Yeah. I can just, what comes to mind is just me playing on the playground in this jumper, which here jumper is like a sweater, but a jumper is with like, it's a dress with a like overall style top. That's a jumper for us. Okay. And it had like, it came below my knees, of course,
because you have to have it below your knees.
It has to be below the knees.
Okay.
The skirts.
You know this. But and it had like little apples and like little like slates on it with like 1, 2, 3 and A plus A plus whatever. ABC.
ABC, there you go.
I don't know if they taught you math in that Mennonite school, but
but they just reminded me of like the school curtains. I don't know. That's the first thing that comes to my mind whenever I think of that. And as well, when listening to music, like we weren't allowed to, like my parents didn't allow us to listen to anything else but like Christian music. Occasionally the country music, because that's what my dad loved to listen to when he was growing up. And not even just growing up, because he grew up very conservative as well.
Were both your parents raised Mennonite?
Yes, they were actually Amish until like my dad left, like his family left the Amish church when he was about 6. Wow. And my mom was about the same age, maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure. But then they lived in a very beachy Mennonite, which is even more conservative than how I grew up, like church lifestyle. Wow. But yeah, yeah.
What about and like the way that you had to act maybe as well, because that's what I'm also very curious about. Yeah. Like I know you, we know you, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like your personality in a more restricted, conservative structure.
Yeah.
I feel like you probably felt like you couldn't be your fullest self.
It's a funny combo, yeah.
I mean, yes. I did not know myself at all either.
Oh, well.
So until I really stepped out of that.
Right.
But I'm just trying to think of like specific things that like I couldn't do when I was a kid that I can do now. And not even just as like an adult, but even living out of that. I think the biggest thing was like playing with boys was such a big thing.
Right.
And I always I was such a tomboy when I grew up. So I was always like wrestling with them and doing all these things while in a skirt.
Yes, and the skirt below the knees. Yes.
The skirt below their knees. So like on Sundays, sometimes the boys would go out and play football in the field, and I would love to go out there, but my mom hated it. She was like, "You are a girl, you do not do this. And you have to watch as you run because your skirt goes up and all this stuff." And I'm just like, this is so stupid. Can I just wear shorts like I do at home, or like all this stuff? Because at home is where you're more comfortable, obviously. But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that really sticks out to me is how, which I can see carries throughout my adulthood, is how to interact with boys.
Right.
No, honestly,
It's like, because
so
I just wanted to like just play and have a good
Yeah.
time, because I was like such a tomboy, didn't want to do the girly things. Of
Yeah,
just
you'll
sitting
never
around and
catch
chatting.
Stef in a skirt now.
That's not true, but like
Barely.
barely.
Yeah. What about like on like a Sunday, like you go to church and things like that? Is there anything in the week, or like even there's a Sunday, like do you go to church on a Sunday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's everything the same, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know, what are the services like, or even in the week, do you have to do certain things? Does anything change in that aspect as well, or more just your behavior?
I think it was more just my behavior, I would say. To me, growing up and going to church now, it seemed like the longest church service I've ever been to, which is very short compared to what the Amish churches are like, apparently.
Right. Yeah.
But very
But yeah, they would stick to a schedule. I'd come to church, and then we would have like our opening like worship. It was hymns.
Yeah.
And then
Any instruments or
no,
no?
completely a cappella.
Cool. So just
Yeah.
Nice.
And bringing in instruments for the worship team was a big debate as well when we started doing that.
Wow. Kind of love it. I kind of like, parts of me really love how like to the roots. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I know this isn't. It's not that I like encourage this, but like, parts of me love this. Anyway, carry on, Steph.
Wait till we get to the...
Yeah, no. I'm not saying it's all great. But.
Yeah. But yeah, and then there was always Sunday school for everyone. It wasn't just for the kids, but then there was Sunday school. And keep in mind, like my family was one of the founding families of the church that I mainly grew up in.
Okay.
Christian Life Mennonite, shout out. Yeah, so I was in that church for a very long time, all the way up until I was 20. So for 15 years I was there. Yeah, but then would come back, and then the sermon would begin, and then afterwards it would close, and then we would have our carry-in lunch all together as a church every other Sunday. I just remember this. So
Carry-in?
you
carry in your
you carry in the food.
Okay.
Like all the women of the church would be in different groups of like hot food, salads, and desserts, and then they would all bring in like the meal of the week. Like they would plan the meal for the whole church.
Okay.
Wow.
And every other Sunday they would bring it in. And so like my mom loved being in the salads because it was more free will. She could do whatever salad she wanted. And the same as the desserts.
More
but like
free will.
the hot food was something that they had to coordinate and they all had to agree on.
Wow.
So as if I know, I was never like there long enough to help out with that.
Yeah.
But I just remember I would often like sneak into the back in the kitchen if my mom were on like food duty. And I would just sit back there because I'm like, I don't want to listen to the sermon because like it's just so old, like long and boring. But yeah, it was just like from like 9:30 to like 11:30. It's to me that sounds like so long. Or back then it felt really long.
Yeah. What about like in the week? Were your parents ever pushing anything on you in terms of like practices or stuff like that? Like I genuinely don't know what it's like. So
I mean,
that's
I would have like school during the week, obviously.
Yeah. But nothing like with the whole like Christian faith and.
I mean, growing up in that community, you just kind of you live your life like that.
Right. So it's a school as well, though, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
Christian Mennonite private school
Okay.
that I went to.
Yeah.
So all my friends were Mennonite as well. It's a very like sheltered community.
Yeah.
And in Holmes County, there's a lot of us. Like that's 50% of the population of Holmes County is either Amish or Mennonite. Half of them are Yoders, and the other half are Millers.
Stephanie is a Yoder.
I am a Yoder, and my mom was a Miller.
Oh wow.
So
Steph rules Holmes County is what I'm hearing.
Wow, this is
part of the
so
dynasty.
really though, there were like a majority of the kids in my school were Yoders.
What?
Yeah. So I was like somehow like related to them like distantly, like to half the school, and like my cousin was like my history teacher, my English teacher, and
So if you wanted to like get together with someone, like I'm talking about like a relationship, like you had to not be with a Yoda, or is that even how it works, right? Because you're related or not?
It really depends, and this is where my dad gets really into it because he loves to figure out like, okay, so what Yoda are you from? Like, what Yoder family are you from?
So if you can trace it back properly enough, you can be like, that's not incest.
Fun fact, there is a book that has like 6 generations. It's called the Jacob Raber book. And it's this big fat book with all of the genealogy of like, I can find my name in this book.
Wow.
And yeah, so we can always like look through here. I'm like, oh, okay, so you're like 6 cousins, you know, like, or how is that? Like,
wowzers.
Yeah, something like that. So you're fine. But here's another fun fact. When I was a kid, I had a crush on this guy named Jordan.
Was he a Yoda?
He was a Yoder.
He was a Yoda. Wow.
He was my first cousin, and I was like, I didn't like think about it because I was young. I'm like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
I'm adopted anyway, so it's okay.
Wow. Oh, hey, fair play.
Yes.
I mean, you would have whipped that out of your back pocket at any point.
Yeah, exactly.
Being like, I'm not blood related to any of y'all.
Anyway, so yeah.
Well, that's crazy.
Your face is crazy.
No, I know. Sorry. Wow, I'm just like putting it all together slowly.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so interesting.
It is so interesting. What I'm also interested in, so you said like it's a bubble, right? So you have this bubble, you go to a Mennonite school, you live in a Mennonite town, obviously Mennonite church. What was portrayed to you as like people that live non-Mennonite? Like how are they portrayed? Was it kind of like they do what they want to do and we just do what we want to do? Was it like you don't want to be like them? We are superior, whether or not that was said explicitly or just kind of that air of like, I don't know, maybe they're not as close to God or whatever it might be. Like how was that kind of interaction? Because then I'm really interested because obviously look at you now.
Yeah.
You're obviously not Mennonite right now.
I'm wearing jeans right now.
There you are, jeans with rips.
Oh
Yeah,
no!
Wow. But the question that then, so like what I want this to lead to, right, is obviously like you broke out. That sounds so dramatic.
Jump the fence is the term that we use.
Jumped the fence. Wow.
Wow, love it.
So you jumped the fence.
I did.
But what was the other side of the fence portrayed as to you growing up in this very isolated Mennonite bubble?
Honestly, it wasn't like anything different or like we were superior than them or anything like that. It was like, because I had friends that were not Mennonite and I had friends that were Amish as well. So I had both extremes around me, and it was like, you do not judge. They like their family chose that. They go to that church, where they have more freedom in that. And I shouldn't say freedom, but like I don't know, they choose that.
Yeah.
And we chose this, and if you want to leave, you can leave. Like it's fine.
Wow.
It's not so much like the Amish where you have like the really strict Amish will like you leave and for Rumspringa. And you should,
Yeah.
I can explain that in a second.
Okay.
And if you choose to like continue living in that life, then you are no longer part of the Amish church. Like you are, in some cases you are shunned from the Amish church and from your family and you're completely isolated, but like it's very rare that I see those cases anymore.
Right.
But that used to be a thing.
Wow.
I think. I'm not entirely sure on that. But
That's fine.
I mean, that's what you read in a lot of the books, and that's what you hear in a lot of articles because it's such an exaggerated thing, or it's so dramatic. Like when someone is shunned from their family or from their church because they chose to live differently than them, and it's I don't know. But for me, growing up with my family already being so different than everyone else, it didn't bother me at all, and I was like, I mean, sometimes I was like, I don't want to be Mennonite anymore. So I like envy you in a sense.
And why didn't you want to be Mennonite anymore?
Well, I just didn't. Because the Mennonite like view and what makes it so like different than what I am today is the outward appearance. That's what we focus so much on. Is how like modest we look, how I don't want to say holy, but like
For lack of a better term.
How holy we look, but even so, like we have to like take things like in the Bible, some things were taken so literally, like do not adorn yourselves with jewelry. So I was not allowed to wear any jewelry growing up. And yeah, so
you have a great jewelry collection.
Courtney's like, wow.
We have like 4,000 like rings and things.
I have 1 ring on and 2 earrings, and I have a nose ring. Oh wow!
Oh my goodness.
So that was my like one of the things that I wanted to like talk about was because the worldview almost is very similar to what you believe now.
Yeah,
it's more kind of like your view on the worldview, right? Or how you kind of approach the worldview. Is that I don't know the best way to phrase it really, but in terms of like the core beliefs, they're the same, aren't they?
Yeah,
really.
We believe in God.
Yeah,
we believe in God. We believe in the Trinity, and that, you know, send His Son to die.
So it's kind of
cross.
more how you present that
Same
worldview,
thing.
maybe.
Yeah,
like you were saying,
it's very much like that.
Yeah, how
we present ourselves, and and wearing a veil as well. It was something that I had to do growing up.
Can you explain that? Yeah, wearing a veil.
It's
not like a.
It's not like a full on like over the head veil. Like I have to hide my face, and it wasn't just during prayer. It was all the time. It was a daily life,
right?
Daily thing. Like I would get ready in the morning and put my hair up in a bun and put my veil on top, which this is where superiority would come in. If like the bigger veil that you had meant the holier that you were in a sense.
And like the longer your hair as well, or no?
I mean, your hair is always up in a bun.
Okay.
So that doesn't really matter, as much. And as well, the color of the veil, which it was either black or white. And sometimes women would wear their white veils on church, like on Sunday to church.
Yeah.
And then a black one throughout the week.
Okay.
And then some would just always wear white because they felt like they'd be holier than others. This is my like
interpretation,
teenager interpretation.
Got you.
To this. So I'm like, because there was just a girl in my youth group that was like this.
She's been outed,
and I'm just like, yeah, I didn't get along with her very well.
That's funny.
Yeah.
In all honesty, but no, she's great. I do not keep in touch with her, so I shouldn't say that.
We don't know how she is actually.
I have no idea how she
okay.
is. But yeah, so yeah, that was just like a piece of lace with like a crocheted trim. Yeah. And like mine wasn't like super big, and I know when I first started it was bigger, and then when I got to high school it was a little bit smaller.
Who decided the sizes of them? Like you, or was it? It
was mainly my mom. Okay. Like, and we could always pick them out as well. Like sometimes we would go, I don't want to say a veil shop because it sounds so interesting, but it was like someone's home who makes them. And we would go to her house, and she had like a whole display for them, for the Mennonite women to come into her home, and like we could pick out what veil we wanted and all this stuff. I think I could be wrong, but I have a vague memory of shopping for my veil when I was 13.
Wow. Is that when you get veils? Is when you're?
It's up to the person. And it's up to the mother and daughter. But my mom was like, okay, since you're 13, you're going into junior high, you should probably start wearing a veil, because and I think in our dress code, once you're in junior high or once you were 13 or something like that, I don't quite remember, you had to wear a veil.
And what was the main like symbolism of the veil?
It symbolizing submission. You know how like the how is it? The glory of a woman is her hair, but then but women are also under men, and we cannot have like our hair as our veil, because then all the men would have to shave their head. In a sense, I think that's how my teacher would explain it to us.
Wow.
And so we had to wear veil, as it was like symbolizing that we are under men, just like men are under God, or under Jesus, and Jesus is under God, and all this stuff. And as just symbolizing submission in a sense.
Wow.
So I had to wear that every day, and if I forgot to put it on and would show up to school, they would send me home to like, hey, go put your veil on, and then come back. And I'm like, oh. And then I lived close enough that it was like, okay, yeah, no big deal.
So Steph, talk us through like, so obviously now you're at a different place and stage, and where you kind of, the way you present that worldview has changed. So talk us through the process of that. Like, do they have any issues with, I mean, I know you said it was fine if you were like, I don't want to be.
If you jump the fence.
Yeah, if you jump the fence, yeah. But do they have, even like your church or friends back home or people who knew you, do they have kind of different, are they like, oh, Steph's like a rebel? Like, are you like perceived like that at all? Or, do you know what I mean? Like, or anything like that?
No, I understand what you mean.
Or even like, just talk us through the process of like, what made you want to come to London almost? Because it's it's almost like the polar opposite of where you were.
It really is.
We came to London at the same time to an internship together. And we were just talking about this.
I did not know that.
Yeah, we did our internship together.
Oh, Jinx, you both know each other.
And we were just even saying that, like, she was so fresh out of the Mennonite when I met her. Like, it's just so...
Like, literally that day.
So, explain that to us.
Yeah, talk us through
that process, even.
Oh, my days. Okay. I wanted to leave the Mennonite life because I didn't think that there was, like, I don't know, dressing like that wasn't necessary. It doesn't determine your relationship with God or your Christian faith, because your relationship with God is what determines that, you know? And so I was like, I just don't want to. And I was just ready to just like leave. I was so eager to leave Holmes County because there wasn't much to do there, honestly. And I have always loved the idea of traveling, and I wanted to come to London so bad. And so I signed up for YWAM, and my mom was not a fan of that. Yeah. And so, and I had like, after I graduated high school, I had planned on leaving the Mennonite church. And I kind of vaguely like told my mom about it, but she was like, I don't know, like whatever. Yeah. So the day that I arrived here in London, and my dad was with me even, I'm like, how do you feel about me wearing jeans? And he's like, I mean, I don't care. My dad's very chill.
Wow.
Right.
And he was like, yeah, that's fine. And I put them on. He's like, oh, those are kind of tight. I'm just like, these are like,
that's a dad right there.
yeah. I'm like, these are nothing compared to what the girls are wearing these days. Don't worry.
Yeah, that's so funny.
But literally, then we left to come like to the YWAM base, like from our hotel, and I was literally fresh out of the Mennonite life. And you could see it as well. Like, I was still so conservatively dressed, even though I felt so scandalous wearing jeans and like a V-neck t-shirt, and whatever.
That's so interesting. Yeah.
But then that between me and my friends, it wasn't that big of a deal because we would sometimes talk about it. Like, I'm really good friends with women, with girls that are still in the Mennonite church, and they like live that so not religiously, but like
Strictly,
or like all in.
They're all in. Like
committed.
they committed. That's the word.
Nice,
Hey,
nice.
we got it, guys.
Nice.
And then I have friends that left it so much sooner than I did and whatnot, or they were basically leaving it as we were finishing high school. So it wasn't that big of a deal. But with my mom, that was the biggest issue. So when I left it, when I moved here, my mom thought it was the most disrespectful thing I've ever done. And so rebellious as well, because she's like, that is not how you like leave the church. That was so, just so rebellious of you. And she was already not on good terms with me coming to YWAM. But yeah, and then we fought about it for a while, and then I went even crazier and dyed my hair blue.
I remember this phase.
Wowzers.
And then continued to fight with my mom about it for like 7 months of both my schools, 4,000 miles apart. So I'm like, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest issue, was disappointing my mother, which me growing up to be a people pleaser and also just following my mom however she wanted me to, was just coming out of that. Wow.
Yeah.
And coming here, I was like, I have no idea who I am, because I have been living in this life for so long, and I like see like being outside of the box of the Mennonite and Amish community of Holmes County, Ohio, and I was like, it's so sheltered. We don't know how how many other cultures there are in this world. And like, yeah, I don't know how to explain it better, but yeah,
Makes
it
so
was
much
like,
sense.
wow. But even so, moving here, like from Holmes County to London, with it being completely polar opposite, I didn't really experience much culture shock, which I was really surprised. But then I was like, all the more reason to call this place home, you know? Like, and I felt at home immediately. So I was like, this city is where I belong. Yeah.
I know,
season.
look at it.
Yeah.
That was 2016. Here we are in 2022. Woohoo! Amazing.
Man.
Yeah. So I think if you can like summarize for us, maybe maybe hard to summarize,
Really
but like, what are like the main ways that you view life? I would say both life and God, because again, we're talking about like like your core values didn't change, you know, but just the way that you maybe saw them or approached them or showed them. But what are the main differences in the way that you view life and that you view God, like now versus how you did? I'm so sorry. Whacking Zach's mic over there. Like now than when you were in the Mennonite community. Yeah. What are like the big differences?
I think the biggest difference for me personally was having like a deeper relationship with God. I mean, growing up in a Mennonite church where your core beliefs are the same as any other Christian denomination. I didn't really have much of a relationship with God. It was more like, I go to church, I live in this community, so yes, I am a Christian. Right. I did give my life to Christ when I was 11, just kind of out of the blue, and I had to recommit several times after, as we all do. But yeah, having a relationship with God is so important, and it's just, I don't know, and it just helps you throughout life as well. I don't know.
Whereas before, you'd probably say like you were just following the rules.
I was just following what everyone else does. I was going to school, going to church, going to Bible study. Trying to go deeper, but it felt like such a religious thing. Where I was just like doing what I knew I had to do and whatever, just kind of living life. But I always like knew that there was always something like, I'm like, I just feel like I could be closer, you know? And I want that, but I don't really know how. And so coming here and like being part of YWAM and seeing so many, like how people move and how the Lord moves and how the Holy Spirit moves and feeling that, I'm like, wow, okay. So like, what's this? Let's dive into this a little bit more. And I don't really remember the rest of your question. I'm so sorry.
No, hi, that's great. I mean,
that's bang on. I think the thing that I find most interesting is like, the core beliefs are the same, but the way we move is still different. Or there's still so much that's different between like Christianity and, you know, Mennonite and, you know, omniscience, stuff like that. So that's crazy to me, because it's not just about it's not just about the core beliefs. It's how you portray that. It's how you display that as well, you know? And in displaying that, then there's just so much to nitpick. So that's my big takeaway. It's really interesting to me.
It's true.
Yeah,
and especially because we're obviously, as you know, we're in this series on worldview, and we talk about like there are 7 like questions that every worldview must answer, you know. Oh. And I'm sure you then and you now would have the same answers to the questions. Yeah. Right? Like what happens to a person after death and all these different things. But again, it's the way that you portray them, or even the way that you view those answers. You know, like I don't know, like that's just so cool that we can change. Maybe our worldview doesn't change, but the way that we view the world changes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
new catchphrase.
But I don't know if that really makes sense, but here we are.
Steph, thank you so much. Stefano.
I wish we could keep going. We should just do a whole series on the Mennonite and Amish.
Really interesting.
Hey, can you imagine, Zach, one day we'll be live on location in Holmes County?
So there could be so many Yoda like relationships, couldn't there? That's like one of the things I've also taken away.
He's stuck on this.
Yeah, but there probably is
6 cousins. So like,
but still, it could be less than that.
It could be. We're not going to go there, and we're not going to end the podcast on incest. But what we will end this podcast on is, of course, plugging our social media.
Oh, yeah.
Zach, where can they find us throughout the week?
Team, we are on all podcast platforms. We're on YouTube and also on TikTok, as well as in Instagram at The Anchor of the Week.
Beautiful.
Wait, that is everything, right? That
I'm
is
pretty sure.
everything.
I'm not gonna lie. I checked out a tiny
Cool.
bit when you said that.
So yeah, that's where we are. Steph, thank you so much for your time.
Of course. Thank you for inviting me.
Team, next week we've got more coming. So more interviews to come.
We are the anger of the week. Remember to attack topics, not people, and we will see you real soon.
See you later.